That much can be taken out and is the right of the family. Now what is above that, which is being saved, this is hers. Just as if the man was looking after the family, he provides for the family, the remainder of the money is his. He puts it in the bank, it's his. You know, she doesn't have a right to it. She may ask, request it, he may give to her as he pleases, but it's his. Similarly, if she's right working, and this is the agreement they've made, she's out there working, then what is surplus is hers. I mean, this is unless they make some other agreement. If they have agreed on something else, if she agrees at the time that they did this, that all the money is turned over to him, it's all his, and then he gives what is necessary for running the family, and the remainder he keeps, then that's the agreement they made. This is a legitimate agreement which could be made. But it's not preferable. Of course, to me, there is a level of unfairness to it. That the wealth, which is surplus, should really belong to the one who's working for it. What is enough for the family? That is the family's. That, to me, is a much more reasonable arrangement. You know, Islamically, Islam would not forbid such an arrangement. You know, as we said, though it is a flipping upside down of the norm of the Muslim family. But where need and necessity, especially in these times, occur, then people may be obliged to do something like this. The next question that we have, written in by Sister Flora Sheikh. She writes from Saudi Arabia. Dear Dr. Bilal Phillips, your program In the Light of Islam is watched by myself and my family, and we enjoy it here in Al-Qarabiyya, Saudi Arabia. Could you please answer some questions for us? The first question is, can women scholars give fatwas? Can women scholars give fatwas? And what is a fatwa? Fatwa is a ruling, an Islamic ruling. Is this something restricted to male scholars? Female scholars may not do so? No. A female scholar, a woman who has reached a position of knowledge where she can give rulings, is permitted to do it. Islam does not restrict, the giving of rulings to just males. Though, generally speaking, when we look, in the different Muslim countries, the leading scholar who makes the rulings for the countries in general, the mufti, referred to as the mufti of this country or that country, tends to be male. But it doesn't mean that because there's a mufti giving a ruling, that nobody else in the country can give rulings. I mean, what happens is that the ruling of the mufti becomes the official ruling of the country as a whole. For example, the government may have appointed this individual as the mufti for the country, so the country abides by the general ruling that he's making. But it doesn't mean that people may not come to individual scholars and ask them for their personal rulings, their opinions on issues. And this may actually even contradict some of the rulings of the mufti of the country. Then the person has a choice, of following one ruling or another ruling. Now, of course, where it becomes the official policy of the government, where to do so now is now looked at as being or classified as being illegal, then one has to restrict oneself to the ruling of the mufti. But where it is rulings of advice, like advising people, it's better to do this, better not to do that, so on, so on, so on. Where there are rulings based on what we call ijtihad, or where the scholar has made deduced rulings, these are not clear statements from the Quran or from the Sunnah, then a person is free to choose rulings that are most applicable for his or her circumstances from any of the scholars, whether it be the leading scholar or whether it be, individual scholars in the country. Those individual scholars may include women. The second question, which Flora has written, once a person has become Muslim, should they change their name officially? As my husband finds it difficult to call me by my Muslim name, I guess he's obviously in the habit of calling her Flora, and he usually calls me by my old name. Well, the issue here is a Muslim required, a person who converts to Islam or reverts to Islam, are they required to change their name? No, Islam does not require it unless that name contains meanings which are un-Islamic. They're either corrupt or they are against the basic teachings, are not applicable. This is when people are required to change their names. And that is the given name, not the family name. Because a person, for example, their name may be Hogsbin. It's a horrible name, if you think about it. The bin, which is the container for hogs, pigs. It's not a name which we're going to choose to give anybody. As a Muslim, we will not choose it to give because we don't eat pork. Pork is, pigs are looked at as being unclean and we stay away from them. So to have a name like that, for example, this is maybe a family name, Hogsbin. You're not allowed to change that. If that's the name of your father, according to Islamic law, that has to be kept. But the given name, the name which he gave you, what is called your Christian name, your first name, this name you may change. As I said, you will have to change it if the meaning is bad. For example, if you had a name like Dennis. Dennis comes from Dionysius, who was the Greek god of pleasure, parties, wine, etc. So such a name, Dennis, is not acceptable. Islamically, one would have to change it. Or the name Apollo, who was the sun god of the Romans. Have to change it. Thor, the god of lightning of the Scandinavians. These kind of names, the person, if they have this name, they have to change it. Among women, Venus is a forbidden name. Venus was the goddess of love. Diana, also goddess of the hunt and love. These are forbidden names for Muslim women. They cannot keep such names. They have to change them. But a name whose meaning is just, okay, it has no, like flora, well, flora, assuming that it is flora and fauna, it means like from flower, this type of thing, names of this type. There is no harm if one keeps this name. It's not a requirement to change it. Though one may want to do so in order to make travel, especially if one's last name doesn't indicate anything of Islam, one may want to change the first name so that at least if they come in contact with other Muslims, they can be identified easily. Or if they have to go and make pilgrimage to Mecca, doubts will not be raised as to whether they're Muslims or not. So one may change the names for these purposes, to identify oneself more easily as a Muslim amongst Muslims. The last question that we'll be taking today, this question is from Dr. Megha. She writes, Dear Dr. Bilal, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. We really enjoy your program. We hope that you keep up the good work. I'd like to ask you that if we have friends who are Muslims who we meet and they don't wear a scarf, and they also don't separate themselves from men and women in gatherings, should we keep a distance from them or break our friendships with them to encourage them to follow Islamic principles more properly? Well, this question addresses the issue of friends who are not practicing Islam properly. Should a Muslim cut relations with such a friend or keep a distance from them? No. If what they're doing is corruptive, meaning when you're friends with them, it is leading you into corruption, they're causing you to do corrupt things, then of course then you need to distance yourself. But if it's a matter that this is what they're doing in other circumstances, but when they're with you, etc., I mean, you're still able to maintain your Islamic principles, etc., then one doesn't need to distance oneself. In fact, it's not good to distance oneself. One should stay close in order to be able to advise them. Because when we distance ourselves, it's very difficult for us to give advice. And as the Prophet ﷺ told us, ad-din al-nasiha, the religion is good advice. So we should try to maintain contacts, ties with people in order to be able to convey the word of Allah to them. Try to advise them, give them tapes, give them books, bring them into gatherings with others who are more knowledgeable, who may be able to advise them and help them in correcting their practices. With that, dear viewers, we'd like to thank you for being with us in this segment of our program, In the Light of Islam, to which you may write, and we encourage you to write, at P.O. Box 111, Sharjah. The program, In the Light of Islam, you can write to me directly, Dr. Bilal Phillips. And we hope to see you in our coming segments. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.